ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaste my dear friends. I have made one video on Shyamatcharan Lahari Mahasaya, Guru of Yukteswar, and Yukteswar was Guru of Paramahansa Yoganand. Paramahansa Yoganand has mentioned about Lahari Mahasaya in his famous book Autobiography of a Yogi. So, how Lahari Mahasaya became a well-known teacher of Kriya Yoga. This was written by Paramahansa Yogananda. Unknown to society in general, a great spiritual renaissance began to flow from a remote corner of Banaras. Just as the fragrance of flowers cannot be suppressed, so Lahari Mahasaya, quietly living as an ideal householder, could not hide his innate glory. Slowly from every part of India, the devotee bees sought the divine nectar of the liberated master. The English office superintendent was one of the first to notice a strange transcendental change in his employee, whom he endearingly called ecstatic Babu. Sir, you seem sad. What is the trouble? Lahari Mahasaya made this sympathetic inquiry one morning to his employer. My wife in England is critically ill. I am torn by anxiety. I shall get you some word about her. Lahari Mahasaya left the room and sat for a short time in a secluded spot. On his return, he smiled consolingly. Your wife is improving. She is now writing you a letter. The omniscient yogi quoted some parts of the missive. Ecstatic Babu, I already know that you are no ordinary man, but yet I am unable to believe that at will you can vanish time and space. The promised letter finally arrived. The astounded superintendent found that it contained not only the good news of his wife's recovery, but also the same phrases which weeks earlier Lahari Mahasaya had repeated. The wife came to India some months later. She visited the office where Lahari Mahasaya was quietly sitting at his desk. The woman approached him reverently. Sir, she said, it was your form hallowed in glorious light that I beheld months ago by my sickbed in London. At that moment I was completely healed. Soon after I was able to undertake the long ocean voyage to India. Day after day, one or two devotees besought the sublime Guru for Kriya initiation. In addition to these spiritual duties and to sublime Guru Kriya initiation, in addition to these spiritual duty and to those of his business and family life, the great master took an enthusiastic interest in education. He organized many study groups and played an active part in the growth of a large high school in the Bengali Tola section of Banaras. His regular discourses on the scriptures came to be called his Gita Assembly, eagerly attended by many truth seekers. By these manifold activities, Lahari Mahasaya sought to answer the common challenge. After performing one's business and social duties, where is the time for devotional meditation? The harmoniously balanced life of the great householder Guru became the silent inspiration of thousands of questioning hearts. Earning only a modest salary, thriftily ostentatious, accessible to all, the master carried on naturally and happily in the path of worldly life. Though ensconced in the seat of the Supreme One, Lahari Mahasaya showed reverence to all men irrespective of their differing merits. When his devotees saluted him, he bowed in turn to them with a childlike humility. The master often touched the feet of others, but seldom allowed them to pay him similar honor, even though such obeisance toward the Guru is an ancient Oriental custom. A significant feature of Lahari Mahasaya's life was his gift of Kriya initiation to those of every faith. Not only Hindus but Muslims and Christians were among his foremost disciples. Monists, dualists, those of all faiths or of no established faith were impartially received and instructed by the Universal Guru. One of his highly advanced chelas was Abdul Ghaffur Khan, a Mohammedan. It shows great courage on the part of Lahari Mahasaya that although a high caste Brahmin, he tried his utmost to dissolve the rigid caste bigotry of his time. Those from every walk of life found shelter under the Master's omnipresent wings. Like all God-inspired prophets, Lahari Mahasaya gave new hope to the outcast and downtrodden of the society. Always remember that you belong to one and no one belongs to you. Reflect that someday you will suddenly have to leave everything in this world. So make the acquaintanceship of God now. The great Guru told his disciples, prepare yourself for the coming astral journey of death by daily riding in the balloon of God perception. Through delusion you are perceiving yourself as a bundle of flesh and bones which at best is a nest of troubles. Meditate unceasingly that you may quickly behold yourself as the infinite essence, free from every form of misery. Cease being a prisoner of the body using the secret key of Kriya. Learn to escape into spirit. The great Guru encouraged his various students to adhere to the good traditional discipline of their own faith, stressing the all-inclusive nature of Kriya as a practical technique of liberation. Lahari Mahasaya then gave his chelas liberty to express their lives in conformance with environment and upbringing. A Muslim should perform his namaz worship 4 times daily, the master pointed out. 4 times daily a Hindu should sit in meditation. A Christian should go down on his knees 4 times daily, praying to God and then reading the Bible. With wise discernment, the Guru guided his followers into the paths of bhakti, devotion, karma, action, jnana, wisdom, or Raja, royal or complete yogas according to each man's natural tendencies. The master, who was slow to give his permission to devotees wishing to enter the formal path of monkhood, always cautioned them to first reflect well on the austerities of the monastic life. The great Guru taught his disciples to avoid theoretical discussion of the scriptures. He only is wise who devotes time to realizing, not reading only. The ancient revelations, he said, solve all your problems through meditation. Exchange unprofitable religious speculations for actual God conduct. Clear your mind of dogmatic theological debris. Let in the fresh, healing waters of direct perception. Attune yourself to the active inner guidance. The divine voice has the answer to every dilemma of life. Though man's ingenuity for getting himself into trouble appear to be endless, the infinite succor is no less resourceful. The master's omnipresence was demonstrated one day before a group of disciples who were listening to his exposition of the Bhagavad Gita, as he was explaining the meaning of Kutastha Chaitanya or the Christ consciousness in all vibratory creation, Lahari Mahasaya suddenly gasped and cried out, I am drowning in the bodies of many souls of the coast of Japan. The next morning, the chelas read a newspaper account of the death of many people whose ship had foundered the preceding day near Japan. The distant disciples of Lahari Mahasaya were often made aware of his enfolding presence. I am ever with those who practice Kriya, he said consolingly to chelas who could not remain near him. I will guide you to the cosmic home through your enlarging perceptions. Swami Satyananda was told by a devotee that, unable to go to Banaras, the man had nevertheless received precise Kriya initiation in a dream. Lahari Mahasaya had appeared to instruct the chela in answer to his prayers. If a disciple neglected any of his worldly obligations, the master would gently correct and discipline him. Lahari Mahasaya's words were mild and healing even when he was forced to speak openly of a chela's faults. Sri Yukteswara once told me, he added ruefully, no disciple ever fled from our master's babs. I could not help laughing, but I truthfully assured Sri Yukteswar that, sharp or not, his every word was music to my ears. Lahari Mahasaya carefully graded Kriya into 4 progressive initiations. He bestowed the 3 higher techniques only after the devotee had manifested definite spiritual progress. One day a certain chela, convinced that his worth was not being duly evaluated, gave voice to his discontent. Master, he said, surely I am ready now for the 2nd initiation. At this moment the door opened to admit a humble disciple, Brinda Bhagat. He was a Banaras postman. Brinda, sit by me here. Brinda, sit by me here. The great Guru smiled at him affectionately. Tell me, are you ready for the 2nd technique of Kriya? The little postman folded his hands in supplication. Gurudeva, he said in alarm, no more initiations, please. How can I assimilate any higher teachings? I have come today to ask you blessings, because the first divine Kriya has filled me with such intoxication that I cannot deliver my letter. Already Brinda swims in the sea of spirit. At these words from Lahari Mahasaya, his other disciple hung his head. Master, he said, I see I have been a poor workman finding fault with my tools. The postman, who was an uneducated man, later developed his insight through Kriya to such an extent that scholars occasionally sought his interpretation on involved scriptural points. Innocent alike of sin and syntax, little Brinda won renown in the domain of learned Pandits. Besides the numerous Banaras disciples of Lahari Mahasaya, hundreds came to him from distant parts of India. He himself travelled to Bengal on several occasions, visiting at the homes of the father-in-law of his 2 sons. Thus, blessed by his presence, Bengal became honeycombed with small Kriya groups, particularly in the district of Krishnanagar and Bishnupur. Many silent devotees to this day have kept the invisible current of spiritual meditation flowing. Among many saints who received Kriya from Lahari Mahasaya may be mentioned the illustrious Swami Vahaskarananda Saraswati of Banaras and the Devgad ascetic of high stature Balananda Brahmachari. For a time, Lahari Mahasaya served as private tutor to the son of Maharaja Ishwari Narayan Sinha Bahadur of Banaras. Recognizing the master's spiritual attainment, the Maharaja as well as his son sought Kriya initiation, as did the Maharaja Jyotindra Mohan Thakur. A number of Lahari Mahasa's disciples with influential worldly position were desirous of expanding the Kriya circle by publicity. The Guru refused his permission. One Chela, the royal physician to the Lord of Banaras, started an organized effort to spread the master's name as Kansi Baba, exalted one of Banaras. Again, the Guru forbade it. Let the fragrance of the Kriya flower be wafted naturally without any display, he said. Its seeds will take root in the soil of spirituality, fertile hearts. Although the great master did not adopt the system of preaching through the modern medium of an organization or through the printing press, he knew that the power of his message would rise like a resistless flood, inundating by its own force the banks of human mind. The charged and purified lives of devotees were the simple guarantees of the deathless vitality of Kriya. In 1886, 25 years after his Ranikhet initiation, Lahari Mahasa was retired on a pension. With his availability in the daytime, disciples sought him out in ever-increasing numbers. The great Guru now sat in silence, most of the time locked in the tranquil lotus posture. He seldom left his little parlor, even for a walk or a visit other parts of the house. A quiet stream of chelas arrived almost ceaselessly for a darshan, holy sight of the Guru. To the awe of all beholders, Lahari Mahasa's habitual physiological state exhibited the superhuman features of breathlessness, sleeplessness, cessation of pulse and heartbeat, calm eyes unblinking for hours, and a profound aura of peace. No visitors departed without upliftment of spirit. All knew they had received the silent blessing of a true man of God. The master now permitted his disciple Panchanan Bhattacharya to open an Arya Mission institution in Calcutta. Here the saintly disciples spread the message of Kriya Yoga and prepared for public benefit certain yogic herbal 18 medicines. In accordance with ancient custom, the master gave to people in general a neem oil for the cure of various diseases. When the Guru requested a disciple to distill the oil, he could easily accomplish the task. If anyone else tried, he would encounter strange difficulties, finding that the medicinal oil had almost evaporated after going through the required distilling processes. Evidently, the master's blessing was a necessary ingredient. The Aryan Mission Institution undertook the publication of many of the Guru's scriptural commentaries like Jesus and other great prophets. Lahari Mahasa himself wrote no books, but his penetrating interpretations were recorded and arranged by various disciples. Some of these voluntary amanuenses hold their efforts. Some of these voluntary amanuenses were more discerning than others in correctly conveying the profound insight of the Guru, yet on the whole, their efforts were successful. Through their zeal, the world possesses unparalleled commentary by Lahari Mahasa on 26 ancient scriptures. Sri Ananda Mohan Lahari, a grandson of the master, has written an interesting booklet on Kriya. The text of the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the great epic, the Mahabharata, which possesses several note points, Vyaskutas. Sri Ananda wrote, "Keep those note points unquestioned and we find nothing but mythical stories of a peculiar and easy misunderstood type. Keep those note points unexplained, and we have lost a science which the East has preserved with superhuman patience after a quest of thousands of years of experiment. It was the commentaries of Lahari Mahasaya which brought to light clear of allegories the very science of religion that had been so cleverly put out of sight in the riddle of scriptural letters and imagery, no longer a mere intelligible jugglery of words. The otherwise unmeaning formulae of Vedic worship have been proved by the master to be full of scientific significance. We know that man is usually the helpless against the insurgent sway of evil passions, but these are rendered powerless, and man finds no motive in their indulgence when they dance on him a consciousness of superior and lasting bliss through Kriya. Here the give up, the negation of the lower passions synchronizes with a take up, the assertion of a beautiful without such a course. Hundreds of moral maxims which run in mere negatives are useless to us. Our eagerness for worldly activity kills in us the sense of spiritual awe. We cannot comprehend the great life behind all names and forms just because science brings home to us how we can use the powers of nature. This familiarity has bred a contempt for her ultimate secrets. Our relations with nature is one of practical business. We tease her, so to speak, to know how she can be used to serve our purpose. We make use of her energies, whose source yet remains unknown. In science, our relation with nature is one that exists between a man and his servant, or in a philosophical sense, she is like a captive in the witness box. We cross-examine her, challenge her, and minutely weigh her evidence in human scales which cannot measure her hidden values. On the other hand, when the self is in communion with a higher power, nature automatically obeys without stress or strain the will of man. This effortless command over nature is called miraculous by the uncomprehending materialist. The life of Lahari Mahasaya set an example which changed the erroneous notion that yoga is a mysterious practice. Every man may find a way through Kriya to understand his proper relation with nature and to feel spiritual reverence for all phenomena, whether mystical or everyday occurrence, in spite of the matter-of-factness of physical science. We must bear in mind that what was mystical 1,000 years ago is no longer so, and what is mysterious now may become lawful, intelligible 100 years hence. It is the infinite, the ocean of power that is at the back of all manifestations. The law of Kriya Yoga is eternal. It is true like mathematics, like the simple rules of addition and subtraction. The law of Kriya can never be destroyed, burned to ashes. All the books on mathematics, the logically minded will always rediscover such truths. Destroy all the sacred books on yoga, its fundamental laws will come out whenever there appears a true yogi who comprises within himself pure devotion and consequently pure knowledge. Just as Babaji, among the greatest of avatars, a Maha Avatar, and Sri Yukteswara, a Jnana Avatar or incantation of wisdom, so Lahari Mahasaya may justly be called Yoga Avatar or incarnation of yoga. By the standards of both qualitative and quantitative good, he elevated the spiritual level of society. In his power to raise his close disciples to Christ-like stature, and in his wide dissemination of truth among the masses, Lahari Mahasaya ranks among the saviors of mankind. His uniqueness as a prophet lies in his practical stress on a definite method kriya, opening for the first time the doors of yoga freedom to all men. Apart from the miracles of his own life, surely the Yoga Avatar reached the zenith of all wonders in reducing the ancient complexities of yoga to an effective simplicity not beyond the ordinary grasp. In reference to miracles, Lahari Mahasaya often said, the operation of subtle laws which are unknown to people in general should not be publicly discussed or published without due discrimination. If in these pages I have appeared to flout his cautionary words, it is because he has given me an inward reassurance. Also, in according to the lives of Babaji, Lahari Mahasaya and Sri Yukteswara, I have thought it advisable to omit many true miraculous stories which could hardly have been included without writing also an explanatory volume of abstruse philosophy. New hope for new man, divine union, the Yoga Avatar proclaimed is possible through self-effort and is not dependent on theological beliefs or on the arbitrary will of a cosmic dictator. Through use of the Kriya, key persons who cannot bring themselves to believe in the divinity of any man will behold at last the full divinity of their own selves. Lahari Mahasaya cures Sri Yukteswara. This is written by Swami Yukteswara. Years ago, I too was anxious to put on weight. During convalescence after severe illness, I visited Lahari Mahasaya in Banaras. Sir, I have been very sick and lost many pounds. I see, Yukteswar, you made yourself unwell and now you think you are thin. This reply was far from the one I had expected. My Guru, however, added encouragingly, let me see, I am sure you ought to feel better tomorrow. Taking his word as a gesture of secret healing towards my receptive mind, I was not surprised the next morning at a welcome accession of strength. I sought out my master and exclaimed exultingly, Sir, I feel much better today. Indeed, today you invigorate yourself. No, master, I protest. It was you who helped me. This is the first time in weeks that I have had any energy. Oh, yes, your malady has been quite serious. Your body is frail yet. Who can say how it will be tomorrow? The thought of possible return of my weakness brought me a shudder of cold fear. The following morning I could hardly drag myself to Lahari Mahasaya home. Sir, I am ailing again. My Guru's glance was quizzical. So, once more you indispose yourself. Gurudeva, I realize now that day by day you have been ridiculing me. My patience was exhausted. I don't understand why you disbelieve my truthful reports. Really, it has been your thoughts that have made you feel alternately weak and strong. My master looked at me affectionately. You have seen how your health was exactly followed your expectations. Thought is a force even as electricity or gravitation. The human mind is a spark of the almighty consciousness of God. I could show you that whatever your powerful mind believes very intensely would instantly come to pass. Knowing that Lahari Mahasaya never spoke idly, I addressed him with great awe and gratitude. Master, if I think I am well and have regained my former weight, shall that happen? It is so. Even at this moment, my Guru spoke gravely, his gaze concentrated on my eyes. Lo, I felt an increase not alone of strength but of weight. Lahari Mahasaya retreated into silence. After a few hours at his feet, I returned to my mother's home where I stayed during my visits to Banaras. My son, what is the matter? Are you swelling with the dropsy? Mother could hardly believe her eyes. My body was now of the same robust dimensions it had possessed before my illness. I weighed myself and found that in one day I had gained 50 pounds. They remained with me permanently. Friends and acquaintances who had seen my thin figure were aghast with wonderment. A number of them changed their mode of life and became disciples of Lahari Mahasaya as a result of this miracle. My Guru, awake in God, knew this world to be nothing but an objectivized dreams of the Creator. Because he was completely aware of his unity with the Divine Dreamer, Lahari Mahasaya could materialize or dematerialize or make any change he wished in the cosmic vision.